3 years old. That's how old he was when they put him on the throne, not to rule, not to lead, to be owned. The men around that little boy saw exactly what they wanted, a crown with no one behind it, a name they could use, a child who would sit where they told him to sit and smile when they told him to smile. They looked at him and saw nothing. That was their first mistake, and their last. Drawn from history. His father, Vasili III, was powerful, ambitious, and desperate for an heir after 20 years of a childless marriage. He got rid of his wife, shipped her to a convent, married a 16-year-old girl named Elena Glinskaya. In 1530, she gave him even. 4 years later, Vasili was dead, a leg infection. The Grand Prince of Muscovy, killed by something a doctor today could fix in a week. Ivan was 3. He inherited everything, and immediately the wolves moved in. His mother, Elena, took the regency. She was sharp, she fought hard. She genuinely tried to hold things together. When Ivan was 8, she died, probably poisoned. No investigation, no consequences. The boyars simply stepped over her body, divided the power, and kept moving. The boy and his deaf brother, Yuri, were moved to a corner of the Kremlin palace and left there. This is where it gets truly dark. Russia's most powerful noble families were legally required to keep Ivan alive, to feed him, to raise him for future rule. And they did, technically. But they also beat him without reason, ignored him for days, took away his nursemaid, the one warm human presence in his life, just to remind him who was in charge. Servants avoided his eyes in the hallways, because being seen near him could cost you something. Even proximity was dangerous. An 8-year-old boy, and everyone around him was afraid, not of him, but of being associated with him. He started throwing dogs and cats from the tower windows, just to watch them fall, just to feel something land. The darkness was already taking shape, but while the boyars treated him like furniture, Ivan was watching, reading everything: history, military strategy, law. He memorized scripture. He cataloged every insult, every humiliation, every face that looked at him like he was nothing. He was building a list. At 13, he started collecting on it. He summoned loyal men-at-arms and had Prince Andrei Shwesky, the most powerful boyar in Russia, the man who had tormented him for years, arrested on the spot. Then he had him thrown to a pack of hungry dogs, alive. The room went silent, the kind of silence where no one breathes, where everyone suddenly understands that the rules have changed and no one knows what the new ones are yet. Nobody stood in his way again. At 16, Ivan was crowned, and he didn't take the old title. He created a new one. Tsar of all the Russias. Not Grand Prince, not Regent. Tsar, from the Latin Caesar, Emperor, Russia's very first. He reformed the legal code, built Russia's first standing army, conquered the Khanates of Kazan and Astrakhan, pushed borders to the Caspian Sea and toward Siberia. His nickname after Kazan was Ivan Grozny. The West translated it as Ivan the Terrible. The original meaning was closer to Ivan the Formidable, a compliment. That translation would become more accurate with time, just not in the way anyone intended. Then 1560 arrived. His wife Anastasia died. She had been beside him since he was 16. She calmed the rages, softened the paranoia. People who knew Ivan before and after her death described two completely different men, as if the same body housed two separate souls, and only one was left now. Ivan was convinced the boyars had poisoned her. No proof. He arrested people anyway, tortured them, had them boiled alive, skinned, impaled. This wasn't justice. This wasn't even revenge. This was something that had been locked behind a door for years, finally free. And here's the part that makes it unbearable. He was probably right. Modern forensic analysis of Anastasia's remains found mercury levels so extreme that deliberate poisoning is the most likely explanation. The boyars almost certainly killed her. Ivan was right, and it destroyed him anyway. By 1564, the paranoia had swallowed everything whole. He packed up and left Moscow, just disappeared, sent back a letter saying he was abdicating. The boyars wouldn't let him govern, so he was done. The city broke into panic. Streets flooded with people. The boyars, the same men who had spent decades scheming and killing, were suddenly begging. He came back. Just one condition: absolute power. From that day forward, nothing in Russia was ever the same. What followed was the Oprichnina, Russia was divided into two zones. One governed normally, one under Ivan's total and direct control, where he expelled the boyar families, seized their lands, and built something the world hadn't quite seen before, a personal terror force. He called them the Oprichniki, black robes, black horses, a dog's skull and a broom tied to their saddles, symbols of their mission. Sniff out traitors, sweep them away. But these weren't just symbols. They were a warning. They could come at any hour of the night. No warrant needed, no trial, no appeal, just Ivan's word. And then the knock on the door. Men dragged from their beds, wives executed in the street, bodies left hanging from their own front doors as messages to the neighbors. The palace corridors went quiet. People stopped speaking above a whisper. Friends began reporting friend, because informing was safer than being informed on. Everyone was guilty. Their turn just hadn't come yet. The Metropolitan Philip, the head of the Russian Orthodox Church, stood at his pulpit and publicly condemned the killings. He spoke in the name of God. Ivan had him strangled in his cell. Not even God's voice was safe. Novgorod. Ivan received a tip, probably fabricated, likely exaggerated, that the city's nobles were planning to defect to Lithuania. He didn't investigate. He sent the Oprichniki. The city knew they were coming before they arrived. Rumors traveled faster than horses. People locked their doors, hid their children, prayed in the dark. Some tried to flee. There was nowhere to go. For 5 weeks, one of Russia's oldest and wealthiest cities was systematically destroyed. They burned. They looted. They killed somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 people. Elderly men were cut down in the streets. Women were dragged from churches. The blood ran down the cobblestones and into the river for days. Ivan watched portions of it personally, calmly, without expression. Back in Moscow, he held public executions in the main square. Nobles boiled alive in giant iron pans. Others impaled. Others dismembered while crowds were forced to watch. Forced, because turning away was its own kind of treason. Ivan walked through it all, like a man inspecting a garden. This wasn't punishment. This was Ivan making sure every city, every noble, every priest, every farmer in Russia understood one thing with absolute clarity. There was nowhere to hide. There was no one to appeal to. There was only Ivan, and his mood that morning, November 1581. This is where everything finally collapsed. Ivan encountered his pregnant daughter-in-law wearing what he considered inappropriate clothing. He attacked her. She miscarried. His son, his heir, his own blood, the young man he had raised to carry everything forward, found out what his father had done. He came to confront him. They faced each other in that room, father and son, and something that had been building for years finally came apart. They shouted. They accused. The son said things that couldn't be unsaid. The father heard things he couldn't unhear. Ivan raised his iron-tipped cane. He hesitated for just a moment. Then he swung. The blow struck his son in the head. The young man crumpled. He never fully regained consciousness. He died 4 days later. There is a famous painting of this moment. Ivan kneeling on the floor, his son across his lap, arms wrapped around him so tightly, as if pressure alone could undo what happened. The old man's face, that face which had ordered thousands of deaths without blinking, completely shattered, eyes hollow, mouth open in a grief that has no sound left, because it was real, every bit of it. He sat with the body for hours, refused to let anyone take it. That night he began scratching the walls with his fingernails, pulling his hair out in clumps, screaming in the dark corridors of the palace while servants stood outside the door and said nothing. For 40 years he had destroyed everyone who might betray him. He had burned cities, strangled priests, boiled nobles alive, and in one uncontrolled moment, with his own hands he killed the only person he had ever truly loved. No enemy did this to him, no boyar conspiracy, no foreign power, just Ivan, just rage, just a cane, and he knew it every single day for the 3 years he had left. March 1584. Ivan was playing chess with one of his last remaining advisors. He collapsed mid-move. Stroke. He was 53 years old. The throne passed to his surviving son Fyodor. Gentle, simple, completely unfit to rule. The boyars took control immediately. When Fyodor died without an heir, Russia collapsed into chaos. Years of famine, civil war, and darkness. Everything Ivan had built, the reformed laws, the expanded borders, the centralized powers gone within a generation, all that blood, all that terror, for nothing. He wasn't born a monster, they built one inside him. That cold palace, those boyar families, those years of hunger and humiliation and fear that never fully ended. But somewhere along the way, Ivan made a choice. He stopped fighting the darkness. He became it. The little boy in the tower, throwing animals from the window just to watch them fall. He never left that tower. He just learned to let everyone else fall instead. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please subscribe and leave a like. You can also write in the comments which historical topics you'd like to see next. See you in the next video.